you have the book in your hand, you talk about it, you turn it around like that, and then you say this is the author. His name is Henry or Henry David, whichever way. You talk, then you talk about his background, which is after the book was published, and what you can also talk about what you think about him, in your own words, in your own words. That's all you have to do. Then, if there are two, three, four words, new words that you didn't know about, you can also talk about those. Then talk about what do you think about the guy. And then remember, this book was written many years ago, many years ago. So it's not as normal as you might expect from any other new, books from new authors. So yeah, let's go. You, yeah, you can read while you're talking, and take your time. Let's go.
The book's name is Walden and is written by Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau.
Yeah.
And this book is
What do you think about the author, the guy, the writer? What do you think? What comes to your mind? And maybe you can talk us more about the picture. Why is it black picture? Why is it not colorful picture?
the author is born at 1817 and
The author was born in 1870.
yes,
So what do you think? You can just tell us more. What do you think? What life was like? How life was like then in 1870, where probably there were no cars, maybe no electric cars, no phone, no cell phone, no mobile. Life was difficult. Not difficult, it was life that existed only at that particular period or time. So, what do you think life was like then in the 1870? Just imagine and take us more, tell us more, take us through.
I guess in 1817 the world will be black and white.
Yeah. So, if the pictures were black and white, uh, then I guess by that particular time it was only 1990 something when they took that picture for him. Um, so of the guy David. So I think the world was not black. The colors have always been there, right? But maybe the buildings, everything was, maybe the classes were not like this. Colorful classes. People were in the cabin. Maybe there were no schools. Maybe there were schools. And people are living and surviving in a cabin. Keep going.
He is an American author, poet, philosopher,
Philosopher.
ab- abolitionist,
The what? Oh, abolitionist.
abolition,
Okay, so the word, we have three words that there: abolition or abolish, poet, philosopher,
and naturalist.
naturalist. So it means he loved nature, living in nature and talk about nature, and his life composed of that, his belief and what his hopes were all about.
What is tax resistor.
He didn't want to pay a tax.
Ah, ah.
So, just like a Paul, Paul does not want to pay tax. Paul, you want to pay tax?
No, definitely not.
You
Because
see, I told you, he does not want to pay tax. So this author, David and David and Paul are the same people. They are all tax resistor. To resist, what is the word? Resist is to refuse. To refuse exactly. I resist. So that's abolish is to stop something. So at that particular time, remember America, they had many black people, and these not African, I don't know why they call them Africans because they were not born in Africa, but there's some kind of some kind of slavery, and most brown skinned people were actually enslaved, meaning that they were captured and bought. Somebody would buy a human being like a brown person, and they would use that person to work in the sugarcane on farms or in farms in all these places. So he was abolitionist, meaning that he was a guy who wanted to stop the whole thing of slavery. Yeah. So you see, one, he didn't want to pay tax, and when we talk about tax is a symbol of government or governance. So it means he was entirely or fully, he had his own mind. He completely had his own mind. One, the first thing about David, Henry, was that he lived in a cabin. He didn't live a normal life like everybody else. He never had so much, to do with, luxury or good things, wealthy of the world that most families lived under. As a result, he became a naturalist. He would rather live in nature, in the jungle, in the bush. Like you and I, we live in an apartment. So this guy decided he's gonna look for the bush somewhere there, jungle, then build something that he built there, as you can see, as it is portrayed in the picture there. Then he decided to stay there, and that's the way. So he saw people made a profit and they capitalized on human beings who were brown, like myself. I would have been that in 1870. Probably I was gonna be the one of the people forced to work. It didn't matter whether you're gonna mix the race or you're brown, and you'd face the same acts of evil or excess of evil. Yeah, go on. Sorry. So there, new words: abolition. Now you know abolish, to stop, resist. Poet. You know poet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, a person who writes poems and recite poems, and every poem has a philosophy behind it. Some poems can be very short, one line. I know one of the authors. I think one of the poet from China. He wrote, I think, only one word. That's it. Finish. Imagine a poem. Imagine writing the whole book only one word. You finish. But when you look into that word, if you try to analyze it, it will have so much that you cannot even this you can write the thickest book. Yeah, so they choose to explain things in only one word, and other people write a poem, you see, to one sentence, just one line down, or others. So he was a poet, and the word poet, and again he was a philosopher. So the word philosopher, what does it come to your mind? What is a philosopher? What is a philosophy? Philosophy are like ideas, or ideally, ideas or ideologies. Like ideology, idea, philosophy, way of life in explaining things mostly is done theoretically. So most of these philosophers have got their own idea of how they're gonna live. So let's say he was a poet. So he was a philosopher, right? Because whatever he wrote in poems, he didn't care whether somebody's gonna read his poems or not. And again, he was a philosopher because he lived in the away from his family. He didn't live a normal life. He lived under simple life, and he chose to do that. It's not like he was forced or compelled to live under that. Yeah, go on.
He also is a development critic.
So he was a development critic.
Critic.
Yeah, it means that he criticized anything that was development. Like, let's say, I will give you an example. Let's say the government wants to develop, or that developers, because it's not, I don't understand. Many people always talk about government, but it's not always the government, it's the people that are doing this, right? Let's say this guy, he wants to develop this place, right? He wants to build this building here. He's a billionaire or millionaire. He wants to build this place, to develop this place. He was against that because remember, he was a naturalist.
Ah.
You got it now? Yeah. So anything good, okay, anything regarded as good thing to do, especially when it comes to um, innovation and modernizing the place or making the place look the way it should look, different from the past. He was like against that. He was actually against the future. Maybe he was a future resistant. He wanted to live a simple life and the same life that anybody can live under nature. Yeah, go on.
uh, Historian.
So
And
he was a historian. You see,
yes.
like I said, he wanted to live in the past. For example, you can decide that you don't want a phone, you don't want to watch TV, anything to do with the technology. You don't want to cook food the same way that everybody cooks food. You don't want people to be selling things on the street. You want to go to the bush and find the food already available for you. You don't want to spend money because you can just go to the bush and get something and then eat grass or eat fruits, eat roots, whatever you find there. Yeah. So he was a historian who dwelled, his mind was immersed, was put, absorbed in the past than in the future.
Is a leading transgen transgen transcendentalist.
Transcendental. Yeah, transcendentalist. It means that maybe he was a guy who basically, I think he lived more on his own mind. He lived by his own way, uh, and most of the transcendentalist guys that do that is the people who probably don't believe much in a religion or spirit, whatever. They transcend the only way they decide. Nobody will tell them what to do, and they will live in that world. It's like they were living in that world, their own world.
Oh, he is best known for his book Walden.
Yeah. So the book that you're holding right now is a very important book in the world of Mr. David Henry.
Very
Y-
famous.
Very famous book. So you are holding a very famous, one of the famous books. Uh, Whatever he wrote, I don't know how beautiful it is, but there you go. People like it, and it's most famous. Yeah.
philosophy of civil diso,
Disorder,
disobedience,
disobedience. Oh, disobedience.
disobedience, yes.
Civil disobedience. So the example that I can give you is that in China, whatever the government, the rules that it puts, you have to listen, right? This guy was disobeying all that. So, for example, if you choose, the government says this road is for people who have cars, the road or odd road, it's for people who own cars, who have cars. He would say he doesn't have a car, and what about those ones that do not have a car? So he would disobey and he would walk in the middle of the road. you know so all the rules, all the policies, everything else that was placed there, he was against that.
Uh,
Yeah.
he have his own thing.
It's and I know some people like that. There's a guy who passed on. Maybe he was 90 years old. He died at the age of 90. I know one guy like that. Personally, I know him. That guy, he never bought food with his own money. He would go to the shops, right? Where they cut bread. When they cut bread, slice the bread.
Bread,
Yes. So when they
yes.
cut it, when you put the bread in the machine, then it cuts slices. Yes. Then the powder that comes from the bread, he goes there with the plastic. He collects. Then he goes home. He makes food out of that. He does not want to buy food, so he collects anything that the shop throw away. He takes it. So this guy I'm talking about, he was a doctor, and he survived on that, meaning that his life is to live for free. So that guy was he was a sociologist. He believed that people should not pay for anything because the money itself was created by somebody.
Yes.
People should get things for free. Do you understand this? That's disobey. So if he goes to the shop, he wants to get things for free. He does not want to buy. I know what you're thinking. Like, kind of hard. I know you live in a world where there was money, but in those days, there were people like them. They didn't want to buy because they felt like somebody's robbing them. Why should I buy?
So the law will be.
Any laws, he was against it.
Uh,
So it means that he disobeyed. He knows that the laws are there according to those people. I believe in every policy. I believe in the laws. I believe in the regulations and stuff. But to him, he believed that is bondage. That's like, keeping you a prisoner. He didn't want to be a prisoner. It feels like you're a prisoner. You're not free to do what you like. You have to go to school. Why you have to go to school when you have the brain? You're born with the brain. So to them, it's like there's no need to be at school. There's no need to buy things. These are the things you're supposed to get them by nature. You're supposed to get them for free. So any policies, any regulations, he was against that. Don't tell him what to do. That's, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
That's the
That's Mr. David.
talk about the Henry David.
Okay.
They say it's the top of the 10 books of build
下课时
American.
间到了，老师，您
Car-
们辛苦了。
how to say that? The characteristic.
Oh, Oh, the way the buildings of America were built, it was his philosophy.
The temple.
He influenced them. Yeah, he influenced them. It's not like he told them what to do. He just influenced them. So I guess it makes sense because remember he lived in the cabin made of planks and wood. So I guess that's why America has got many houses made of wood. Oh my God! I don't. They'll okay. People, everybody has an opinion. This is their opinion, you know, not mine, not my own.